Marcus Johnson sat in his car, hands trembling on the steering wheel as red and blue lights flashed in his rearview mirror. It was a warm Tuesday evening in June, and he had just left the grocery store after picking up dinner ingredients. His heart sank, not because he had done anything wrong, but because he knew what could happen. Officer Dale Richardson approached the window with a scowl already etched on his face. Marcus had seen that look before. It was the look that didn't see a 34-year-old high school teacher, a father of two, or a man who volunteered at the community center every Saturday. It was a look that only saw one thing. License and registration, Richardson barked without preamble. Yes, sir, Marcus replied calmly, reaching slowly for his glove compartment. I'm reaching for my documents now. You know why I pulled you over? Marcus did not know. He had been driving the speed limit, used his turn signals, and his car was in perfect working order. He made sure of it specifically to avoid situations like this. No, sir, I don't. Your tail light is out, Richardson said, though Marcus had just had his car inspected 2 weeks ago. As Marcus handed over his documents, Richardson snatched them roughly from his hand. Step out of the vehicle. Officer, may I ask why? I said step out. Richardson's hand moved to his belt. Marcus complied, his mind racing through everything he had taught his 15-year-old son about these situations. Stay calm. Be respectful. Keep your hands visible. Survive, but this time felt different. This time, Marcus had installed a dashcam 3 months ago after his neighbor had been harassed during a traffic stop. The small device was recording everything. Richardson ordered Marcus to place his hands on the hood of the car. As he began to pat him down, his movements were unnecessarily rough, almost aggressive. Where are you coming from? Richardson demanded. The grocery store, sir. My receipt is in the bag in the back seat. Don't tell me what's in your car. I'll determine that. Richardson's voice dripped with contempt. You people always think you know better than the police. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He had heard those words before, you people. The phrase that reduced his entire existence to a stereotype. Richardson searched the car, tossing Marcus's groceries onto the street. Eggs cracked on the pavement, milk spilled, bread crushed under careless hands. Marcus watched his daughter's favorite cereal roll into the gutter. Officer, I have my receipt. Everything was legally purchased. Shut up. I'll tell you when you can speak. Richardson turned back to Marcus, stepping uncomfortably close. You got a smart mouth, don't you? Think you're better than me? No, sir. I'm just trying to understand. Maybe you need to be taught some respect. Richardson's hand went to his handcuffs. A crowd had begun to gather. Several people held up their phones, recording. A woman across the street called out, he hasn't done anything wrong. Richardson glanced at the crowd, irritation crossing his face, but he didn't stop. He grabbed Marcus's arm, twisting it harder than necessary. You're under arrest for obstruction of justice and resisting arrest. I haven't resisted anything, Marcus said, his voice strained from the pain in his twisted arm. You're resisting right now, Richardson sneered, pushing Marcus against the car with excessive force. Marcus spent 6 hours in a holding cell before he was allowed to make a phone call. His wife, Denise, answered on the first ring, her voice thick with worry. She had been frantically calling his phone all evening. I'm okay, he told her, though he wasn't sure that was true. His shoulder ached from where Richardson had wrenched it, and he had a bruise forming on his cheek from being pressed against the car. Denise contacted their lawyer, Patricia Okonkwo, a civil rights attorney who had handled cases like this before. Patricia arrived at the station within the hour, demanding to see her client. When Marcus was finally released at 2 a.m., the charges against him were listed as obstruction of justice, resisting arrest, and disorderly conduct. He hadn't done any of those things, but the system didn't seem to care. We're going to fight this, Patricia told him as they sat in her office the next morning. Tell me everything. Marcus recounted every detail. Then he mentioned the dashcam. Patricia's eyes lit up. You have video? Everything. Audio too. The footage was damning. It showed Marcus being polite, compliant, and calm. It showed Richardson's aggression, his rough handling, his racist comments. The audio captured every word, including Richardson saying you people and falsely claiming that Marcus was resisting. This is good, Marcus. This is very good, Patricia said. But I need you to understand, this is going to be hard. The department will try to protect him. The union will fight us. Are you prepared for that? Marcus thought about his son, who had watched him leave in handcuffs from the window. He thought about every other black man and woman who had been in his position but hadn't survived, or hadn't had video evidence, or hadn't been believed. I'm prepared. This has to stop. Patricia filed a formal complaint with the police department, along with a lawsuit against Officer Richardson and the city for civil rights violations, false arrest, assault, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. She also sent copies of the dashcam footage to the local news stations. The story exploded. High school teacher brutalized in traffic stop read the headlines. The video went viral, garnering millions of views in the first 48 hours. Community activists organized protests outside City Hall. The NAACP released a statement demanding accountability. The police department initially released a statement defending Richardson, claiming he had followed protocol and that Marcus had been uncooperative. But the video told a different story, and public pressure mounted. The internal affairs investigation that followed revealed this wasn't Richardson's first incident. There had been 12 complaints against him in the past 6 years, all from people of color, all dismissed by the department. Several involved allegations of excessive force and racial profiling. Marcus discovered he wasn't alone. Through social media and community meetings, he connected with 6 other people who had similar experiences with Richardson. Patricia interviewed all of them. One was a 67-year-old grandmother who had been pulled over and verbally berated. Another was a college student who had been stopped while walking home from campus and searched without cause. Each story revealed a pattern of behavior that the department had ignored. The legal battle stretched over 18 months. The police union fought the charges against Richardson, arguing that he had feared for his safety. The city's attorneys tried to settle quietly, offering Marcus money if he would sign a non-disclosure agreement. He refused. "This isn't about money," Marcus told reporters during a press conference. "This is about accountability. This is about making sure what happened to me doesn't happen to anyone else." The department placed Richardson on administrative leave, with pay. Community outrage grew. Protests continued weekly. Marcus became an accidental activist, speaking at town halls and community forums about the need for police reform. It took a toll. Marcus received death threats online. Someone spray-painted slurs on his garage door. His children had to deal with classmates whose parents called Marcus a troublemaker and cop hater. But there was also overwhelming support. The community rallied around him. Teachers from across the state sent messages of solidarity. Strangers donated to his legal fund. His students made a video expressing their support, telling stories of how Marcus had impacted their lives. During the deposition, Richardson was forced to watch the dashcam footage. Patricia questioned him for 8 hours, methodically dismantling every claim he had made. Richardson's attorneys squirmed as the video contradicted their client repeatedly. "Officer Richardson, you stated in your report that Mr. Johnson was aggressive toward you. Can you point out where in this video he was aggressive? He had an attitude." "An attitude isn't a crime, officer." "Did he threaten you?" "No, but did he raise his voice?" "Not exactly, but did he make any sudden movements?" "He was resistant." "He complied with every command you gave him." "What specifically did he do that was resistant?" Richardson had no good answer. The criminal charges against Marcus were dropped 6 months in, when the prosecutor acknowledged that the video evidence contradicted the police report. But the civil case moved forward. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Patricia presented the dashcam footage, testimonies from witnesses who had been at the scene, and statements from Richardson's other victims. An expert on police procedures testified that Richardson had violated multiple protocols and that none of his actions were justified. The defense tried to paint Marcus as someone looking for a payday, but it fell flat. Marcus's character witnesses, colleagues, students, neighbors, painted a picture of a devoted teacher and community member who had never been in trouble with the law. Richardson's own words condemned him. The video played in the courtroom, and the jury watched as he roughly handled Marcus, made racist comments, and falsely arrested him. Several jurors visibly reacted when they heard him say "you people." Richardson took the stand in his own defense, and it was disastrous for him. Under cross-examination, Patricia got him to admit he couldn't remember checking Marcus's taillight, which had supposedly been the reason for the stop. When she asked if he had issued any warnings or citations for the taillight, he admitted he hadn't. "So you pulled my client over for a broken taillight, but you didn't cite him for it?" "I was going to, but then what, officer?" "He was respectful. He complied. The only thing he did was exist while black. Isn't that right?" "Objection. Withdrawn." Patricia turned to the jury. No further questions. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. They found Officer Dale Richardson guilty of violating Marcus Johnson's civil rights, false arrest, assault, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. They awarded Marcus $2.3 million in damages, $800,000 in compensatory damages, and $1.5 million in punitive damages. But more importantly, their verdict sent a message. The judge, an older black woman named Honorable Justice Evelyn Matthews, addressed the courtroom before dismissing the jury. This case represents more than one traffic stop, she said. It represents a pattern of abuse that has gone unchecked for too long. Mr. Johnson showed remarkable courage in fighting back, not with violence, but with the truth. His dashcam footage and his willingness to stand up for what's right has exposed a system that failed to hold its officers accountable. She turned to Richardson, who sat stone-faced at the defense table. Officer Richardson, you were given a badge and the public's trust. You abused both. You let your prejudices guide your actions, and in doing so, you violated the oath you took to serve and protect all citizens. Your behavior has no place in law enforcement. The police department, facing intense public pressure and the damning verdict, terminated Richardson's employment 2 days later. The district attorney, who had initially declined to prosecute, reopened the case and charged Richardson with assault and filing a false police report under state criminal law. Richardson eventually pleaded guilty to avoid trial and received 2 years in prison, with 3 years of probation to follow. Marcus's case became a catalyst for reform in his city. The city council passed a series of measures, mandatory body cameras for all officers, with strict penalties for turning them off, creation of an independent civilian review board to investigate complaints against police, enhanced training on implicit bias and de-escalation, a policy requiring officers to report misconduct by their colleagues, public release of disciplinary records for police officers. Marcus used a portion of his settlement to establish the Truth and Accountability Foundation, a nonprofit that provided free dashcams to low-income community members and funded legal representation for victims of police misconduct. Also worked with Patricia to review the cases of Richardson's other victims, helping several of them receive settlements and apologies from the department. Marcus returned to teaching, though he also began speaking nationally about police reform and the importance of documentation and legal advocacy. His story was featured in documentaries and news programs. Students from his school went on to become activists, lawyers, and police officers committed to doing better. 2 years after the verdict, Marcus stood in City Hall as the mayor signed the Marcus Johnson Police Accountability Act into law, legislation that required all traffic stops to be recorded and created stricter standards for officers with multiple complaints. His family was there: Denise, his son Deshaun, now 17, and his daughter Alicia, 13. His students filled the back rows, many of them holding signs that read "Justice for Mr. J" and "Accountability Matters." During his speech, Marcus reflected on his journey. 2 years ago, I was terrified. I was humiliated. I was treated like a criminal for doing absolutely nothing wrong. But I had something many victims of police brutality don't have: video evidence. That dashcam saved my life and my case. But here's the thing, I shouldn't need a camera to be treated with dignity. None of us should. We shouldn't have to record our every interaction with police just to prove we're human beings deserving of respect. This fight was never just about me. It was about my son, who watched his father get arrested for nothing and had to learn that the world isn't always fair. It was about every person who looks like me and has experienced the fear of seeing those flashing lights in their rearview mirror. Justice isn't just about winning in court. It's about changing systems. It's about accountability. It's about making sure that no officer can abuse their power without consequences. Today, we've taken a step forward. But our work isn't finished. Every day, people face discrimination, abuse, and injustice. We must stand with them. We must fight alongside them. We must never accept that this is just the way things are. Officer Richardson thought he could abuse his power and face no consequences because that's what his experience had taught him. 12 complaints were dismissed before mine. 12 times the system failed. But on that 13th time, the system finally worked, not because it was designed to, but because we forced it to. That's the lesson here: justice isn't given. It's demanded. It's fought for. It's earned through perseverance, courage, and an unwillingness to accept injustice as the status quo. To everyone watching who has experienced something similar, your story matters. Your pain is valid. And there are people who will fight alongside you. Document everything you can. Know your rights. And never, ever stop demanding justice. Change is possible. This law is proof of that. But it only happened because people refused to stay silent. Because the community stood up. Because you all believed that we deserved better. So thank you. Thank you to everyone who supported me, who marched, who demanded accountability. This victory belongs to all of us. The room erupted in applause. As Marcus stepped down from the podium, his son embraced him. I'm proud of you, Dad. I'm proud of you too, son. And I'm sorry you had to see me go through that. Don't be sorry. You showed me how to fight back the right way. You showed me that we don't have to accept injustice. Marcus smiled, tears in his eyes. The fight had been long and painful, but it had been worth it. He hadn't just won his case, he had helped change the system, even if only a little. That night, as Marcus lay in bed, he thought about how different things might have been if he hadn't installed that dashcam. Would anyone have believed him? Would Richardson have faced any consequences? Would he have even survived the encounter? He would never know for sure. But he knew this: one person standing up could make a difference. One person refusing to accept injustice could inspire change. One person's courage could help protect countless others, and that, Marcus thought as he drifted off to sleep, was real justice.